Hey! What you doing, man?
What do you mean? I'm just eating ice cream.
Oh no! You got something to do, don't you? You can't front on me! What happened to reviewing the best ancients to medieval period miniatures in 1/72nd scale, huh? What about it? You know I can't sleep, man. I got insomnia. Hey man, we ain't got time for your dear fetuses. We got to make the review. Come on, man. You come back here. Listen here. Why don't you do it? Why don't you do it, man? Give me a reason. Because it's been too long. Now look here, man. Don't do me like that, man. Look at this shit. When you did the 2022 Ancients Review, you pulled out all the stops. You put on a sports commentator voice, and you even got a tractor. That is unbelievable shit. Who has a tractor nowadays? God damn. Are you some kind of agricultural son of a bitch being the foundation of all sedentary societies as opposed to hunter-gatherer organizations? Well, slap me silly and call me your wife because holy shit on a shit stick, that tractor is tight. No wonder people watch that shit, it's got a tractor in it. Woo! Giant buckets of horse cum. I am literally shaking right now and it's not from the drugs, bitch. Yeah, last time we did have a tractor, and the kids do love tractors. We're gonna need like 2 tractors. What about 2 chairs? Can 2 chairs work? No, not good enough. What about the iconic Hong Kong cartoon icon Madonna? No, okay, alright. We're gonna need we're gonna have to escalate. We need like 2 tractors and hookers. 2 tractors and hookers together at the same time. In the same shot. Folks, can we agree that it has been an eventful 2 years? Can you believe that, folks? 2 whole years without an in-depth examination of the state of ancient period plastic figurines in 1/72nd scale. There were some that thought the format retired, perhaps discarded in the wake of the dangers of 3D printing technologies and ability to produce without initial large principal investment, therefore rendering economies of scale essential and making it unprofitable to make more niche topics. But no, that cannot be the case. Plastic miniatures will always have a place in the 1/72nd scale modeler's arsenal. They are the cheap foundation of monopose armies. They are the easy, accessible option for those of us who just want to buy miniatures from a shelf and not fiddle with a 3D printer. They are what the painter, the collector, and the modeler think of when you mention the words 1/72nd scale. They are, in other words, essential. And what in the Sam Ham happened to prices? I take a 2-year break to focus on my career as a sports announcer and prices are up through the roof. Holy moly, do you see that? From $0 to 60 cents. That's like an infinity percentage increase. Let me tell you now more than ever, we need plastic miniatures to keep our hobby affordable and free from the communists. Now, this will not be an exhaustive review of the 1/72nd scale. The miniatures to be covered in question range from the ancient to medieval period because I am not interested in other time ranges. Not because they are unworthy, but because I personally am obsessed with armor and swords ever since my wife divorced me the slag. I will not go into each set in exhaustive detail either. The purpose of this examination is to determine the best ancient to medieval miniature set in 1/72nd scale for 2023. The criteria by which I determine this will be, for a final score, the overall quality of the sculpts with a weighing of 35%, their adherence to historical accuracy with a weighing of 15%, the number of figures and number of unique poses in the set with a weighing of 30%, and how much innovation is in the set in relation to the scale as a whole with a weighing of 20%. All criteria will be scored out of 10, with the percentages applied and added to form a total tally. Now, I cannot say that my weighings are objectively correct any more than I can say my assessments or scores are objectively correct. This is all subjective by nature, but I will attempt to justify all my decisions. Sculpt quality is a universally important quality. We can all play with paper stand-ins or painted rocks, but we choose miniatures because the aesthetics are important. In contrast, not all of the audience can say they care about historical accuracy. For fantasy games, such concerns are irrelevant, and while historical purists like myself would care greatly about this value, their concerns are averaged out across the total audience and therefore rendered less important. Is a weighing of 20% fair? Honestly, I have no idea. I have no empirical data to back my claims up, so I have to just guess. I would say the number of unique poses and number of figures weigh heavily on every 1/72nd scale enjoyer,
We all want more figures so we can store the spares in our basements for the next 20 years. Slightly less important, but still important, I think is how innovative this set is. We have many sets depicting Roman infantry. This may be a form of blasphemy, but there is a point when a man has too much Roman infantry. When a set decides to be brave and make a niche topic, the novelty draws interest. I will rank each criteria out of 10. I realize this is not exactly the scientific method, but using numbers will allow me to be more quantitative in condemning each set and rank how each and every set fails, like I used to do with my children. Now, price is an important criteria, but it seems that different retails price things differently, so it makes things tricky. 1/72nd depot allows me to find the average of prices across eBay. I will rely on them now to take the average price and attach it to the previous criteria. Why is price not included in the criteria? Because price is the summation of value of an object in our financial system. It is meant to summarize the whole value of a thing, which is of course imperfect because of externalities, but I do not have time to explore every externality. Do you want to talk about the climate impact of producing a sprue? Yeah, me neither. We can then find the value of total criteria expressed as the dollar value, which should be a more objective way of evaluating sets based entirely upon my subjective bullshit opinion of things I personally value. Look, fellas, objectivity does not exist in the arts. This is the closest I can get, okay? All pricing will be in Australian dollars. And honestly, Plastic Soldier Review exists, and their reviews are great. I don't know why you are here. You should go there. I'm just here for the memes. Now I have traveled the land in search of the best miniatures in 1/72nd scale, got into the My Little Pony TCG, got divorced over the My Little Pony TCG, and am now ready to present. Let us therefore find the best miniature set of 2023 for the Ancients to Medieval period. Maybe in the future we'll do early modern too, basically any period before the Napoleonics. The state of Ancients wargaming in 1/72nd scale in 2023 was dominated by Linear A, which had been the trend for the past few years as most of the legacy companies such as HaT and Zvezda decided to withdraw from the ancient field's contention. However, Ultima Ratio had put in a relatively strong showing in this year, but they do have an issue with the price. Now I am aware we are still going through a cost of living crisis. Look at this here. This used to be free. Now it's 59 cents. That is technically an infinity percentage increase, which is just too high. Now Ultima Ratio minis aren't as high as Infinity, and let's be fair, some of the 3D printed Linear A sets are pricey too, but Ultima Ratio have priced their plastic molded miniatures quite a bit higher on average, which does matter. Ultima Ratio's Gladiators Retarius Provocator is a niche within the gladiator subject matter. There are 3 poses of Retari gladiators with tridents cast in a single pose. The nets and poses are flat to accommodate plastic molding technology, but it means their arms are quite close to the torso, and if realism in poses is important to you, then this might bother you and you should get a new hobby. To match them are 3 fighting poses of Provocator gladiators with patterned shields. There is also a gladiator holding a palm branch, a symbol of his victory, and a woman holding a goblet and a gladiator's helmet. It's all relatively accurate. One of the tridents has 2 prongs, which is weird. The sculpting quality is acceptable. The figures look like human beings. Their muscles are defined, rippling in the sun, and glistening erotically, no homo. The poses on the provocators look more realistic because the shields are separate. It's pretty hard to make realistic monopose models because of the restriction of molds. I appreciate the sculpted detail on the shields. They are reasonably detailed. The sculpting is okay, it's reasonable, but it does not wow me. There aren't intricate details, but everything is reasonably depicted, even if the poses are a bit flat, like my ex-girlfriend's chest. However, there's only 8 poses and 24 figures total. The Pegasus Gladiators gave us 18 poses and 36 figures. Their detail is so crisp and it averages at $24, while this set is $50.54. $50! Double the price for like less than half the number of poses and 2/3 of the figures. and the figures are less detailed, they're insane. Commit them to the mental asylum because the overall quality of the sculpts is 6 out of 10, worth 0.21. Historical accuracy is 9 out of 10, worth 0.135. Number of figures and poses is 4 out of 10, worth 0.12. Innovation is 2 out of 10, worth 0.04. They get 1 point for Palm Leaf Guy and 1 point for the hooker. As I told you, this video would increase upon the prior number of hookers from the last review of 2022. So the total for this set is 0.505 according to the percentage weighing of my criteria at $50.54. So 0.00999208547 points per dollar. Now I don't know about you, but that doesn't induce confidence. But we will have to compare with the others. Ultima Ratio released the Hannibal's Veterans set for the Carthaginian army. These Libyans or Libby Phoenicians have looted chainmail shirts from the Romans, but wear their original helmets. There is some weird apron or groin protector thing that could be made of lamella or scale to protect their virginity. The officer has a muscle cuirass, the standard bearer has a scale cuirass, it's all period appropriate. There's some nice Carthaginian symbols on the Roman style shields, so I guess the troops have repainted some looted shields. Shields have a huge half-spherical boss which is inaccurate, and only one has a reinforcing spine, so that is odd. There are 3 flat fighting monoposes and 2 fighting poses with a separate arm. It's all basically fine. There's decent detail on the figures. You can see chainmail, you can see scale, the folds in clothing, but the detail is not the sharpest. This set is also 8 poses and 24 figures total with an average price of $51.47. Overall quality of sculpts is 6 out of 10, worth 0.21. Historical accuracy is 8 out of 10, worth 0.12. 2 points deducted for the weird scale aprons, which protect their virginity. My mum made me wear one when I was 12. The number of figures and poses is 4 out of 10, worth 0.12. Innovation is 7 out of 10, worth 0.14, because there is only one other set of Hannibal veterans with chainmail that exists, made by HaT. But the Carthaginian army is a popular topic, so it's not completely bold. The total for this set is 0.59 according to the percentage weighing for my criteria, and at $51.47 is worth 0.01146298814 points per dollar. Ultima Ratio's last set released for 2023 was the Libyan infantry for the Carthaginian army. These are more standard Libyans as opposed to the special Libyans of the previous chainmail armored set. There's a variety of armors, there's scale armor, Greek style linen cuirasses, and I see a muscle cuirass. The helmets are standard, they have realistic tunics, and nicely detailed shields with sculpted patterns. The shields are the most impressive part of this set. It's not like the human anatomy of these figures stand out. They're just not amazing, and we've seen finer sculpts before from other companies like Zvezda. The poses are very standard and acceptable with 9 monoposes and 27 figures total with an average price of $53.33. The overall quality of the sculpts is 6 out of 10, worth 0.21. The historical accuracy gets full marks, 10 out of 10, worth 0.15. I think it's far easier to get full marks for historical accuracy as opposed to sculpt quality. If you had a naked guy as a figure and the set was marketed as naked guy in 1/72 scale, that's fully accurate, as long as the sculpt quality was not so bad that it couldn't pass as human. In such a case, I suppose there is a threshold for sculpt quality that impacts historical accuracy, but I feel that would be a rare situation. The number of figures and poses is 5 out of 10, worth 0.15, and finally innovation is 5 out of 10, worth 0.1. I feel that there are only 2 other sets with Libyan and Libby Phoenician troops made by HaT and Zvezda, but the Carthaginian army is quite a well-known topic. The total for this set is 0.61, so it's just getting better, and at $53.33, it's worth 0.01143821488 points per dollar. That is interesting. So just comparing Ultima Ratio sets using my metrics, it appears the best value for money is the Carthaginian veteran set, but the highest score is the Libyan infantry. However, the difference is like $2 and the score is so close, I feel they're essentially on parity. My own weighings are subjective, but people have different preferences and place greater importance on different values, and based on that, I feel neither one of the last two sets are clearly better than the other. The thing is, for Carthaginians, why wouldn't you just buy the HaT sets if you want cheap models, or the Zvezda sets if you want quality? The Ultima Ratio gladiators have stiff competition as well. Of course, from Pegasus, Italeri, even Orion, from their sheer pose variety. Ultima Ratio offer expensive but just mediocre sculpts with little pose variety. I think if you just want more figure variety in your armies, you might find this useful. But if you just want to fill out an army, HaT's figures are usually cheaper and are of the same sculpt quality. Moving on to Linear A, the recent champions of Ancients Wargaming, we have quite a Roman-centric release here for 2023. Almost everything is Roman or Roman adjacent, so I hope you like the Romans. Linear A's Samnite Wars Italian ally cavalry represent various Italian tribes during Rome's early period. These figures can really represent any tribesman from the time, with the exception of the kettle helmet figure, which was worn by tribes from northern Italy specifically. But you can just make a whole unit representative of a northern Italian tribe, so it's no big deal. Their attire includes muscle cuirasses, the single armor disc, the triple armor disc, or just a tunic. Helmets are nicely imposing with feathered or horned arrays. Almost everything is historically accurate. I think modern historical interpretations of the Samnite banner is actually a tunic of a defeated enemy on a stick. The horses are nice, the sculpting quality is nice, but not as blocky as the Ultima Ratio sets. The figures are monopose and they can be a little flat, but there is a bit of room on the width of the sprue, so weapons do stick out and it's not a terrible situation. The standard fighting poses are acceptable. You get 16 monoposes total with 12 riders and 12 horses for a total of 24 figures with an average price of $32.94. The overall quality of the sculpts is 8 out of 10, worth 0.28. They are so detailed and crisp, but points are taken away from the kind of flat poses. The historical accuracy is 9 out of 10, worth 0.135. The banner should be a tunic, but it's close enough. The number of figures and poses is 7 out of 10, worth 0.21. In my opinion, they get saved by the large number of unique poses, not by the number of figures. Their innovation score is 8 out of 10, worth 0.16. There is only one other set of Italian cavalry made by HaT, and Italian tribes is not a popular subject matter, but not completely unprecedented with several other existing infantry sets out there. Their total score is 0.785, and at $32.94 is worth 0.02383120825 points per dollar. Linear A's Ptolemaic Infantry Phalanx Set 2 depicts phalangites dressed in both the Greek and Egyptian fashion. The Greek successors of the Diadochi all utilized an evolution of the original Macedonian phalanx, and while the front rankers are Greek enough to pass as any soldier in any successor army, the others have elements of Egyptian dress, making them most useful for the Ptolemaic army. There are poses holding the pikes at various angles, and the attire is mostly Egyptian. 5 of the 8 unique poses wear quilted cloth helmets, while 3 wear Hellenistic successor state style helmets. The most armored troops are the front rankers, equipped with muscle cuirass, some kind of scale or lamellar armor, then gradually quilted fabric, chainmail, then just bare tunics. The details are sharp, with the quilted square armors being rendered well, and faces and bodies being well done. They are all historically accurate. Though they are monopose in this case, I think it's fine because phalangites aren't exactly dynamic. Audience expectations are of a solid defensive posture hefting the pike, so in this case being a standard flat pose does not detract from the set. There are a total of 8 poses and 32 figures in this set, with an average price of $31.77. The overall quality of the sculpts is 8 out of 10, worth 0.28. They are great sculpts, but they don't have ridiculous levels of detail to deserve a perfect score, and the poses are still flat, even if that's what you want and expect. The historical accuracy is 10 out of 10, worth 0.15. I see nothing wrong, so full marks. The number of figures and poses is 5 out of 10, worth 0.15. I justify this score by having a decent amount of figures, even if there aren't too many poses. Their innovation score is 9 out of 10, worth 0.18. Why 9? Have you ever seen Egyptian troops during the Diadochi Wars era? Have you ever seen padded Egyptian armor during the era? Thought so. However, there are existing Successor Kingdom troops and Ptolemaic troops also made by Linear A, so it's not a completely new topic, but the troop choice is very bold. The total score is therefore 0.76 and at $31.77 is worth 0.02392193,893 points per dollar. That is a slight creep up from the prior set, at least a 0.0001 difference, with that $1.17 having a far-reaching impact. The Hannibal vs. Scipio set contains Hannibal, his Carthaginian babysitter slash bodyguard, and Scipio and his Roman babysitter slash bodyguard. Hindsight is everything, but perhaps this will be the point where we can say the Games Workshopification of Linear A begins. How do I know? Can I see the future? Maybe what happens in 2025? Who knows? But the answer is yes. So anyway, we all know about Hannibal Barca and maybe Scipio Africanus, right? If you need me to explain who they are, you need to go back to school. I'm not the solution. The education system failed you. Hannibal is detailed. You can see his muscle cuirass and animal pelt. And he's got his hands on his hips like he's sassy and don't need no man. He wears an eye patch over his left eye, but he lost his right eye while crossing the Alps, so technically he's blind. Well done. Scipio's bald. He's so bald. He has a toga thing around his muscle cuirass for some reason. While it is cool, it makes no sense. The Roman generals didn't wear sashes. Hannibal's babysitter is a Celt because he succumbed to the woke mind virus and doesn't judge people by the color of their skin. The Celt has a Germanic top knot for some reason, and the Roman babysitter has a Greek round shield for some reason, so clearly they were multicultural before their time. I see a lot of complaining online about historical revisionism and changing the races of historical events, and clearly Linear A is just latching upon that trend. There are 4 unique poses and 4 figures total for an average price of $22.58. Overall quality of sculpts is 8 out of 10, worth 0.28. They are good sculpts, they're detailed for what they are. I like the attempt at command poses, sassy hands on hips, hand on chest, or clutching sash thing. It's a bit different. Historical accuracy is 3 out of 10, worth 0.045. There are many problems. Hannibal's eye, Scipio's toga sash, the Celt's haircut, the Romans' Greek shield. The number of figures and poses is 1 out of 10, worth 0.03. I know it's marketed as a smaller set, but just objectively when comparing it to the other sets, there are less poses and figures. Far less poses and figures. Their innovation score is 6 out of 10, worth 0.12. There are 2 existing Hannibal figures, both made by Linear A, but this one looks different. Post-Alps journey with eye patch, and Scipio hasn't been depicted before. The total score of this set is 0.445, and at $22.58 is worth 0.01970770593 points per dollar. Going by my metrics, this set is worth more than the Ultima Ratio Carthaginian Libyan infantry set. Now, I did buy this Linear A set and not the Ultima Ratio one, but I do understand that while I care about the number of figures, it's not an overwhelming weighting in terms of percentage. If it bothers you that you're paying 20 buckaroos for 4 dudes, I don't blame you. It is outrageous. It is something that Games Workshop would do. For the layman who doesn't understand our ways, this is one of the worst insults you can make of an entity, to be remembered for generations to come. I did buy it, and perhaps I am therefore as guilty, but not really. That was just rhetorical. It's all their fault. Bad. Linear A's Emperor Justinian I and Imperatrix Theodora I set continues in the tradition of the Linear A smaller sets, in the same way a bastard awkwardly continues a blood lineage and nobody likes them. In this set, you get the Byzantine Emperor, the Empress, a Bishop, and an Imperial Guard. Now, these are nice figures, they are very detailed. The crowns on the rulers are sculpted with fine hanging beads dangling from the Empress's crown. There are fine sculpted details on the noble robes, and all the robes are voluminous. The poses are nice, they're holding bowls. There aren't many contexts where it makes sense for them to hold bowls. Maybe they're really hungry, so they may be cool, but are they useful? It's to match their iconic mosaic art. The Bishop and Guard are in far more standard poses and are very nice figures too. There are 4 unique poses and 4 figures total for an average price of $24.02. Overall quality of the sculpts is 9 out of 10, worth 0.315. These are very nice, we're talking top of the line Zvezda quality stuff. Historical accuracy is 8 out of 10, worth 0.12. Why? While everything is accurate, the rulers holding the plate and chalice, the huge ass bowls, make no sense. Like, it's so specific. But they are technically period correct, so points taken away for being absurd. It'd be like if there was a Roman soldier set and the Romans were holding period accurate dildos. Theoretically, it could have happened, but let's be real, it didn't happen. The number of figures and poses is 1 out of 10, worth 0.03. Same idea as the previous set. Their innovation score is 9 out of 10, worth 0.18. There are literally no other models of these rulers in this scale, and the Byzantine Empire is a rare topic to cover. It's not unprecedented, so they don't get a perfect score, however. The total score is 0.645, and at $24.02 is worth 0.02685262281 points per dollar. You're still paying too much for 4 figures, but at least they're really nice exotic figures. The set depicting Publius Quinctilius Varus Disaster is a smaller set. Again, you get General Varus kneeling, his tribune babysitter, a running Roman soldier, and a Roman corpse. It's a good thing the set is already called Disaster because it saves me the time and makes it official. The tribune is trying to do the stab sword in someone's back to execute them pose, except historically, that wasn't a thing. The common way to execute was to behead someone, and Roman writers said Varus took his own life, so this guy doesn't make any sense. But maybe you want to do the Gladiator movie thing and recreate the movie, I don't know. Everyone is nicely rendered with details on the armor and the faces, and it's all historically faithful, with the poses depicting very specific circumstances, so while not generally useful, would be very handy to recreate specific events. There are 4 unique poses and 4 figures total for an average price of $16.93. It doesn't exist anymore on eBay. Well, there you go, folks. That's how popular it was. They're not even gonna restock it. That's how badly it sold. Or we can be positive and say it sold out. Overall quality of sculpts is 8 out of 10, worth 0.28. The bodies and armor are well defined. You can even see Varus's pained expression, and he looks like an old man, which is hard to render at this scale, but the set is not exceptionally ornate. Historical accuracy is 8 out of 10, worth 0.12, points taken away from the cinematic executioner pose, but at least everything else is accurate. Number of figures and poses is 1 out of 10, worth 0.03, the same idea as the previous set. Innovation score is 6 out of 10, worth 0.12. While Varus's the kneeling pose is rare, the executioner pose is ahistorical and a first, and running Roman soldiers and dead Roman soldiers are rare depictions. However, Romans are the most overmade subject matter in 1/72nd scale. So this set gets an above average grade for making radical new steps for a tired subject matter. The overall score is 0.55. At $16.93, it is worth 0.03248670998 points per dollar. However, with so few eBay listings previously and now no eBay listings, the price averages are rather limited as a data set. Linear A's 6th century Eastern Roman Empire Infantry Set 1 depicts an array of Byzantine soldiers armored in mail and scale, carrying spears, swords, bows, hand ballista, and comes with a command set including officers and standards. It's a good cross-section of the army in the 6th century, with half the troops being close combat specialists and the other half being ranged soldiers. As part of a general release, it fits with the Emperor Justinian set and his Imperial Guardsmen, so Linear A is giving you enough variety to make a small force. There's a lot of Spangen helms and armor and pose variations between troops, soldiers firing and fighting, and at rest. Within the limitations of a monopose mold, they portray action quite well, and the sculpting standard is to the usual high Linear A standards. This set brings about some needed early Byzantine troops, whereas prior Byzantine infantry made by Orion are set much later. For this set, there are 12 unique poses and 48 figures total for an average price of $30.71. Overall quality of the sculpts is 8 out of 10, worth 0.28. Lots of nice rendering of chainmail and scales, clear delineation between plates on the Spangen helms, bodies are anatomically correct. Historical accuracy is 10 out of 10, worth 0.15. I see no problems. The number of figures and poses is 8 out of 10, worth 0.24 from the relatively large number of poses and the very large number of figures. The innovation is a whopping 9 out of 10, worth 0.18. They are the first early Byzantine troops, so they are breaking new ground, and the Byzantine Empire is a rare topic to cover. The total score is 0.85. This is perhaps the highest score yet in the video. Maybe we have a winner. At $30.71, it is worth 0.02767828069 points per dollar. So less value per dollar than other sets perhaps, but this is still a great set. Linear A's Imperial Guardsmen of Emperor Justinian I showcase the bodyguards of the Byzantine Empire in the 6th century to go alongside the other two box sets for this period. All the guardsmen are fittingly in a guarding pose, with their chi rose shields at rest or held loosely to the side. Most are holding spears, but you have an axeman. It looks like they wear some kind of armor, but the cloaks and straps obscure much of it. There's a senior officer wearing a gown but also holding a spear for some reason. There's a strategos holding his helmet. There are 4 court officials. The sculpting is nice as usual for this company, with a good rendition of human anatomy and attention to detail on the armor and folds of clothing. This set has 12 unique poses and 48 figures total for an average price of $32.97. The overall quality of the sculpts is 8 out of 10, worth 0.28. It's the usual great Linear A sculpting. The historical accuracy is 10 out of 10, worth 0.15. I see no problems. The number of figures and poses is 8 out of 10, worth 0.24 from the large number of poses and the huge number of figures. The innovation score is a crazy 9 out of 10, worth 0.18. Exactly like the prior set, they are the first early Byzantine troops, and Byzantium is rarely covered. The total score is 0.85, exactly the same as the prior set. They're very similar actually, same topic, same period, same number of poses and figures. This set branches out with court officials and the troops are more casual, but still retain a very similar essence. At $32.97, it is worth 0.02578101304 points per dollar. The Roman Artillery Set 1 Ballista is a giant siege weapon. It's frankly the largest ballista I've seen in this scale. The model is formidably large but lacks the bowstring and loading sling. This model would be useful if you're trying to recreate a siege, but it's so comically big that it would overshadow anything else if it was just contrasted with mere mortals. The crew are depicted as pulling back on the winch. It's a very specific set with 3 unique poses, counting the massive ballista, and 3 figures total, with an average price of $31.54. Overall quality of sculpts is 7 out of 10, worth 0.245. The ballista is missing some detail and it's not particularly ornate, but that's just an accurate depiction. It's made of wood and slots together. That's fine. The crew are good. The historical accuracy is 10 out of 10, worth 0.15. I see no problems. The number of figures and poses is 1 out of 10, worth 0.03. You get 3 figures. Now, one of those figures is an absolute chonker, but as Gimli once said, that still only counts as one. The innovation score is 7 out of 10, worth 0.14, because while a few Scorpion models exist, let's be fair, this is really different. This is a huge siege version. But it's also, for the Imperial Romans, a very overcovered topic. With a final score of 0.565, at $31.54, it is worth 0.01791377603 points per dollar. The lowest value Linear A set yet. And finally, we come to the final set of the year, the Roman Artillery Set 3, Scorpio. Many Roman army lists in tabletop games feature this famous artillery. The Scorpion model itself is quite nice, with decoration on the front of the spring frame, but it has no bowstring. The crew are nice, with well-rendered armor, and are accurate, but two of the helmets don't have the neck protector, which was a feature of the Imperial Gallic helmet. In terms of sculpting quality, it's an improvement over the equivalent HaT set, and will probably therefore see much use, as it is an important staple of many miniature Roman armies. You get 4 unique poses total and 8 figures total with an average price of $31.80. Overall quality of the sculpts is 8 out of 10, worth 0.28. The detailing on everything is good, but you don't get the bowstrings and the model is not adjustable and is set to firing at horizontal. I don't care really, but these nitpicks prevent a perfect score. The historical accuracy is 9 out of 10, worth 0.135, a point taken off for the helmets. The number of figures and poses is 2 out of 10, worth 0.06. The innovation score is 4 out of 10, worth 0.08. There are a few Scorpion models that exist, but not too many, but the Roman army is a very conventional topic. The final score of 0.555 at $31.80 is worth 0.017452833018 points per dollar. This is nearly the lowest score for this year's Linear A offerings, but not quite. So now we have all the data, let's summarize. For Ultima Ratio, the highest rated set was the Carthaginian Libyan infantry set, while the best value for money was the Carthaginian Hannibal's veteran set. For Linear A, the highest rated set was shared between the 6th century Eastern Roman Empire Infantry Set 1 and Imperial Guardsmen of Emperor Justinian I, while the best value for money was the Publius Quintilius Varus's Disaster set. However, there was only one historical price available for this set, so this data set is not great. Also, the price averages are taken from eBay data, but I've found that retailers offer far better prices, but I'm not willing to go into each individual website that offers these products and compile their data for an average. That would take a week, and it's not a good use of anyone's time. So it turns out Linear A blows out Ultima Ratio's offering in 2023 in terms of value and overall quality assessment, in my humble opinion. Everything is involved with Rome heavily for some reason. I guess you could argue the Carthaginians and Ptolemaics were their own thing, but they fought the Romans, and you could argue people think of Carthage within a heavily Roman context. They are, of course, chief antagonists during the Republic era. Romans for everyone. Yay! As I finish this year in review, I wonder, what does the future hold? What year comes after 2023? Perhaps none of us can ever know. One thing is for sure, it probably contains 1/72nd scale miniatures. As I am nearing the limits of my voice, I need to thank my Patreon supporters, the Command Bunker and Mikhail Belusov. Thank you very much for supporting this channel. You guys are great. I won't be able to speak for a week after this. And so we come to the end of another glorious video. We have reviewed the miniatures of 2023. A bit late, I know, but we're finally done. I think Linear A, again, have the best range again this year because they're the only one doing ancients and medieval minis. So, you know, building out the collection with Linear A, the other broader collection. But, yeah, once again, Linear A. Make some great stuff. Have the best selection, go for more esoteric stuff. So they're always winners in my book. Hopefully, well, you know, like I'm not gonna be corrupt about it. Maybe next year, who knows who's gonna take it next year? But they seem to be pretty vested in the 1/72nd ancients and modern space. ancients and medieval space. So at least we're getting some excitement with new releases that way. So I'll see you guys maybe next year for the next video, hopefully. Let's see how it goes.